So now that it's dark, so you can't really see my ugly mug as well. Let me describe that dream that I had. So I have dreams like this sometimes where they feel incredibly vivid. Um, where I should say that they are incredibly vivid and they feel different from other dreams. They feel like they're more significant. I'm not sure if you want to call them a vision. I'm not sure if I'd go that far. But if this was 2,000 years ago, right? And I'm in a tribe somewhere and I have a dream like this and I tell people, they might interpret it as such. But before I moved across the country, because I did, which is part of the reason why I'm homeless right now, is that I just don't have the support network that I really need. But so basically, I think the night before, even or 2 nights before I came, I was hanging out with a friend before I fell asleep, and we were talking about magic in the sense of chaos magic and stuff like that. And I was thinking about that stuff and occultism. And my friend is very open to things. He's a very interesting guy. He's a psychologist, and basically we were talking about the ability to actually commune with gods or deities, the existence of deities, stuff like that. And that night, I fell asleep, and I had a dream that I was at my childhood house, and we had this decently sized sort of back porch area, and then about 30 or 40 feet from the back porch, there's this big sort of wooden fence. So we can't really see into the neighbor's yard, but you can kind of see vaguely, like down the hill. So you get this sweeping view of this tiny little valley, which I'm on the side of. So I go out onto the back porch, and in the dream, and I look up to the sky, and I can clearly see a rift, some kind of tear in the fabric of existence. And it's very interesting. So it's like the super stormy out. There's lightning everywhere. It's like a Virginia thunderstorm, which I've seen those when I was a kid. Which you don't get those in Oregon at all. But there was like a Virginia style thunderstorm outside. And then from the clouds, they parted as this rip happened in the sky. It looks like if you're looking at the maybe not the Aether, I forget what it's called, but it's the right, the medieval people, they viewed the sky basically as being a sheet, so to speak. And there are different layers ascending all the way to heaven, right? If you were to tear one of those layers open, and then dimensionally, there's this little pocket dimension inside of this rip, and there's as it's ripping open, almost like this is kind of graphic, but almost like a vagina, right? As it's ripping open like that, there is purple lightning everywhere. So the lightning that is local to the actual rip is different in color. It's, instead of being sort of a white yellow flash, it is this purple. The purple lingers. It's very odd. And then as it opens up, I can see imagine that you had a half sphere, like a little plastic half sphere of like a ball or something, and it's a stiff plastic, so that when you cut the ball in half, right, the half sphere still has form to it. And then at the top of that, you take a cup, like a regular like drinking cup, and you cut the very top of that half sphere off so that there's a hole. So there's a half sphere, there's a hole in the top of it, and then you place the cup, or the mug is probably better, you place the mug on top of that hole, right? Now imagine that you are underneath, you're tiny, like the size of an ant, and you're underneath that half sphere, and you're looking up at the mug through the halves here. That's basically what it was. It was almost this sort of statue room with 12 sides. It's either 12 or 9. I actually counted them because they were rotating very slowly. But there's this, it's like this, let's just call it a 9-sided shape. There is a, it's this enormous room that extends upward, and then it's a 9-sided room, and at every side, right, at every sort of wall, there's actually a depression in the wall. And I know that there's a word for this in architecture, I forget what it is though. There's a depression in the wall, and in the depression is a statue. It's a statue of a god, right? So as this is rotating, I can see that they're Egyptian gods, right? So one has a Anubis head, the other has like a hawk head, whatever it is, an eagle's head, right? Another one has a human head, etc., right? And finally it stops rotating and slows down. And I'm just staring at this thing, and this is probably over the course of like 20 seconds. Slows down to a crawl, and I can see there's a god that's basically looking down. And unlike the other gods that are still statues, meaning that they are made of marble, this one appears to be alive. It is still fixed in place, but the quality, like the actual what it looks like is different, right? So it's clearly something other than marble, clearly something other than just stone or granite or whatever. But it's actually moving. It's actually fleshy, but it's still in the same place, almost like a vampire in a coffin, if you want to think of it like that. And this god, he had a staff in his hand, and he had a jackal head, like an Anubis. And he called out something. He's like, all mortals who hear the voice of the god, reveal yourself, for your day of judgment is upon you. And I saw, and it's this weird like dream thing where it's hard for me to describe. I kind of saw through the fence that I was talking about, probably a good half mile away from me. There was somebody else. I could see them. There was somebody else in a ghostly silhouette. That's how I was seeing him through this thing. It was a ghostly silhouette, almost like an aimbot in Counter-Strike, right, where I can kind of see their silhouettes moving through the walls, right, therefore I can time my shot as they're coming around the corner. It's the same deal. I could see his silhouette, ghostly, this ethereal silhouette, through the matter, and it was this bluish gray, and there was light emanating from where he was standing upward, basically as a beacon, so that the god could see him. And then I saw this ghostly silhouette, which you would call the subtle body of this man, if this is real, the subtle body of the man floating upward, and then hovering about 50 to 100 feet above the ground, right? And the god began conversing with him, and I forget exactly what he said. But then I think he saw me, and I will never forget exactly what it was like when his head turned. It was like if I'm looking at the camera, it's blah 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 blah. God, it was like this kind of like fast shift as his attention snapped onto me, and when his head was actually looking at me, oh my God, it was like getting hit. It was like getting hit with bullets. Like that's how powerful his gaze was. It was like boom, and like I could feel it. It was crazy. And then the god said to me, "So you too, mortal," or something like this. "So you too, mortal, shall ye be judged." And then basically, I don't even remember. I was so stupefied by that experience. I didn't even say anything. I just kind of like mumbled, which of course, that's what I would do. And then the god said, "You mortal, you dare approach divinity, you can't even handle slight discomfort, or you can't even handle pain, something like that. That's what he said. You can't even handle pain. And then he took his little staff and it's almost like Harry Potter, like he cast a spell at me, and I could see this projectile coming towards me. And immediately I knew, for whatever reason, that it was a homing projectile, basically. Like he signaled out my soul, and this thing is seeking the soul, and when it comes, it's gonna hurt like shit. And in that moment, I bolted. Which maybe if this is real, right? Because I do believe in some psychic stuff. If this is a deity actually judging me, I mean, the deity's correct. I'm a bitch. So I bolted from where I was standing, and I'm running around my house, basically doing evasive maneuvers as this spectral thing. It's not really a human. It's kind of like, almost looks like a jellyfish. The spectral jellyfish looking thing, like a comet, is following me around. And eventually I run out of places to run, and I'm in my garage, and it hits me, and I just feel this warm, like it wasn't painful at all. It's just this warm glow. That's when I realized that I had been got. Basically, it was a test to see if I was a punk, and I'm a punk. Because instead of accepting the pain like a god, I ran like a bitch. And then I walked out from my garage to my front, my driveway, and I looked at the rift again, and the god said, "You be gone." And then I realized once he said that, I was dead, like he'd killed me. And all it took was begone, and it was like, boop, like instantly I'm dead. And I could see the ghosts of other people around me. They were all walking through, like almost like a river, because these ghosts can move through walls. Interestingly enough, they cannot move through the earth. They can move through other obstacles. And I saw hundreds of ghosts walking through my yard towards the apex of the hill that I'm on, sort of the ridge that I'm on, summit. And for whatever reason, I just instinctively knew that they were all going to reincarnate. And a lot of these ghosts were zombie-like, meaning that they had no consciousness. I could tell from looking at their eyes that they were just empty husks that were almost animalistically driven on. They're moving towards that reincarnation moment, that point or whatever, where they're going to be re-entered into the well, forgetting, right? If I'm sort of ancient mythologies here, the well of forgetting, at which point, call it the well of Hades or whatever. At some point, they're going to reincarnate. And I remember watching all these zombies basically through my yard, and then I remember seeing a woman. She kind of looked like not Nefertiti. What's the I don't know. I can't remember her name. The famous Egyptian queen that basically dated both. I think it was Caesar and his buddy. Anyways, it's once I shut this video up, it's immediately gonna pop into my head. Anyways, she kind of looked like the bust of her. It's a very Egyptian looking woman. But she clearly was not a zombie. She was actually looking around and curious, and we noticed each other. And she came up to me, and I came up to her. And there was this weird moment of remembering where it's like we knew each other from a past life, maybe not even the life that I was just living in the dream, but like past lives, like a while ago. And we were lovers. And we just had this surreal moment of remembering the romance. And with most things, if you're dealing with same people, it's just the reality that almost no matter how horrendous, that's not true. Some things truly are horrendous, but most minorly stressful events, right? In hindsight, you're always going to remember them better than they were. If you're somebody who is not, reflexively pessimistic, right? Because there are people like that where I'm sure it's the opposite, but that's a disorder. Most normal people have rose-tinted glasses, right? So imagine remembering something multiple lifetimes ago, right? All of the bullshit is literally going to be gone, and you're just going to have that pure feeling. That was something special, wasn't it? That was something special. So there's a famous statue of a pharaoh where I think it's him standing with his wife. It might even be Ptolemy. I don't think it's Ptolemy, but it might be a Ptolemy statue where he's standing with his wife. If it's Ptolemy, it's going to be his sister. But he's standing with his wife. Hopefully that was not my sister that I was remembering dating. Hopefully that's not my sister. But it was like Ptolemy or some pharaoh. And he was in this very strange position, sort of arm in arm clasped with his wife, where she was at his side. And they both have sort of that archaic smile. They're both in moderate bliss, but it's a bliss that's not empowering. It's a tasteful kind of godly bliss. And, they're armed in arm. They're kind of wrapped at the hip. They're like, almost like they're hip to hip. That sort of statue. And basically she said, shall we? Like, let's go. Basically, we're going to reincarnate. And we're going to approach, whether or not we actually reincarnate together, I don't think it works like that, but we were going to approach the moment of reincarnation together because it's more enjoyable. So we, in that same position, it's this weird thing where the Egyptian theme's running through this dream, but we automatically assumed the position of the pharaoh and his wife, the pharaohess, which that's not a word, but pharaoh and the pharaohess. But we walked basically hip to hip to this reincarnation point. And there's something that happened as we got closer to it. Oh my God, that's right. We had to go through this house. There was some other part of this dream. We had to go through this house. And we got separated for some reason. I can't even remember what happened, but we got separated from that position. And that was devastating to me because we're so close to the reincarnation well. We can't really find each other. It doesn't really work. It's this point. It's like the closer you get to it, it's like approaching a black hole. Like your reality starts getting skewed. But we were basically torn apart, and then I had to walk into reincarnation by myself, and that really, really hurt. And then I woke up right before I entered into, I guess right before I went past sort of the singularity, because intuitively I knew that I was right on the cusp of not going back, but I didn't actually get to see what the well looked like, or otherwise, obviously I'd be telling you guys what that was like. That was a crazy dream that I had, and I hope that was entertaining.